Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to my Nohrian Dusk banner review video. This review will be slightly different compared to my previous ones because there's so much content to cover and I don't have much time to spend on each video, at least for now. I won't be covering every single skill on each unit, instead I'll only cover the new skills. Some of you guys might like that change since it's a bit repetitive hearing me cover the same skills all the time, but I do it for the new players. But yeah, anyways, with that aside, let's jump right into the review. Let's start with Flora. She's an infantry red dagger unit. Stats are fairly similar to the hard-hitting slow red mages such as Anaki, Lolina, and Makaya. She has slightly less attack than Soth and Kagero, but on the defensive side, she's superior in that regard, at least in the resistance department. 38 resistance is a lot. In fact, that's the highest res in the game, so she's going to be a really good unit to use ploy skills with. Her HP and attack are decent. 38 HP and 34 attack are good numbers. On the other hand, speed and defense are very poor, but that's fine because her unique weapon somewhat fixes her weaknesses. She wields the unique dagger Hoarfrost Knife. First effect is the same as slaying weapons. It permanently reduces special cooldown by 1. The special effect grants her 20 defense when she initiates combat versus swords, lances, axes, and dragonstone foes. In addition, if those foes are able to counterattack, then Flora is granted a guaranteed follow-up attack. Then the third effect is the same old debuffing effect that's on most daggers. I've seen a lot of overreactions on this weapon. I don't necessarily think it's OP, but it's good for her. It's made to serve a specific purpose and it fulfills that purpose. It basically just allows her to be able to duel against foes with distant counter. Since she's most likely not going to one-shot enemies, the extra 20 defense is useful to increase that mediocre 56 physical bulk to 76, which will allow her to be able to tank a hit from adaptive dragonstone and hard-hitting physical enemies. More importantly, it'll help her secure that follow-up attack. Here's the thing though, since this weapon is practically made for the arena meta, it's really important that Flora is built to one round KO. The reason is because if she's facing a foe equipped with a breath skill or a vengeful fighter, then she's opening herself up to getting one round KO'd by Aether or Ignis. Unless she's running guard in the B slot, but I like Quick Riposte. Hoarfrost Knife and Quick Riposte expands her coverage so she's not stuck on being just a distant counter. The only problem I see with this weapon is versus armored foes with Warrior Fighter. Hoarfrost Knife's effect and Warrior Fighter's effect will cancel out, therefore Flora will only be able to double them if she outspeeds the Warrior Fighter foe by 5. The problem is that Flora is pretty slow herself, so maybe a speed boon or a speed boosting A skill is something worth considering. One last thing before we move on to the next skill, I like the fact that she's a red color type as well. Green distant counter units are by far the most popular in Arena. There's all those Hectors, Ephraim's, Grimas, and Murs running around in there. New A skill is attack res solo. If unit is not adjacent to an ally, grants attack res plus 6 during combat. This is a really nice effect. It almost has no drawback to it and it increases a lot of stats. Even if your team uses adjacent display buffing skills like odd attack wave for example, you could just use your attack res solo unit to attack first, then move the buffer unit next to them so they can receive the buff on the following turn. Also, there's obviously no drawback if your team uses drive skills because drives can activate from 2 spaces. The only problem is if your team has adjacent buffing skills and you give this attack res solo skill to an enemy phase unit. That enemy phase unit can't benefit from both effects, it's either one or the other. But yeah, I love this new type of skill. I'm definitely looking forward to attack defense solo so I can give it to my legendary Ephraim. By the way, this skill is inheritable by staff units, so this is another offensive skill added into their arsenal. Special is Iceberg, B skills Quick Riposte, and C skills Defense Ploy. Flora is a specialized unit practically made to use versus the current arena meta, with Hoarfrost Knife giving her guaranteed doubles and 20 defense versus certain enemies. She almost has no weaknesses as long as she sticks to her job. However, outside of arena, her weapon is a lot less useful since distant counter foes are less common, but a 14 might slaying weapon is still decent. Her base kit is very nice as it synergizes well with her stat line. If we add together all the buff and debuffs given by her base skills, excluding outside buffs, she's essentially reaching 59 attack and 44 resistance. Combine that with a guaranteed iceberg proc on every second attack versus an enemy that can counter, she can actually become an effective combat specialist. For key boons, I would try to go for plus attack, that's the obvious boon. There is some merit to going for a speed and defense boon. Like I mentioned earlier, speed is useful for breaking Warrior Fighter. A defense boon is where I'm a bit iffy on. It does reduce 6 damage if she gets doubled, but if she gets doubled, she's probably getting hit by a special, which means she's most likely dead. I think it would be much better if she was built for one round KOing instead of trying to survive a second hit. Key Banes is difficult to evaluate since she can use every single stat. I would say HP is definitely the best Bane despite it being a super Bane. Up next is who I would consider as the star of the banner. It's Ophelia, and she's a blue mage. Her stats follows a similar trend as the few other blue mages such as Delphia, Lute, May, and Micaiah. All of them have most of their points allocated into their attack first, then speed second. Ophelia's defenses is where there's a slight difference. She trades her resistance for more HP. Her raw defenses are on the lower side, but it shouldn't matter too much since her job is to be a player phase nuke. Her unique weapon is Mistletoe. It accelerates special trigger just like slaying weapons. Then it also reduces one special cooldown charge for each magic ally on her team, which includes the unit. This means that she should be getting 2 charges reduced guaranteed if she's the only magic unit on the team. If she's on a team with 3 other mages, then she can start off the match with Aether ready to activate, which is crazy. A more realistic way of using her is probably by giving her Quicken Pulse in the seal slot and using her with one other mage so she can activate an AoE special right off the bat. With her high attack stat, she'll be able to one-shot a lot of foes with it. If you have an extra Lewin laying around, you can give her Special Spiral in the B slot and she will be able to activate 3 charge specials every single turn without requiring an additional mage on the team as long as she has Quicken Pulse equipped. She's definitely one of the most dangerous mages in this game because of this weapon. Having the potential to be able to activate any type of special on turn 1 is very powerful. New assist skill is Rally Up Attack Plus. Now this is a very cool assist skill. It grants 6 attack to target ally and allies within 2 spaces of target for 1 turn. If you have this assist on your team, you won't have to use attack buffing display skills in the C or seal slot anymore. It frees up those 2 slots, so now your team can run more AoE combat buffs such as drives, wards, goes, and spurs. Also keep in mind that this is a 400 SP costing skill, so it's fantastic for slightly increasing arena scores. The rest of her skills are Blazing Light, Sturdy Blow, and Chill Res. Ophelia is a fantastic player phase nuke. Although her speed is kinda low when compared with the other blue mages, her attack is actually the highest among them. Then, when we combine the effects from her unique tome and her high base attack, she can become a one-shot killing machine. She's incredible for all modes in the game. The only drawback besides her underwhelming defenses is that her unique tome does restrict some team building options, but it doesn't have to if you don't plan on using high costing specials on her. Best boon for her is attack for speed. An attack boon is a super boon and is the best for maximizing her damage output if you build her to one-shot foes on initiation. Speed doesn't really synergize well with her unique tome, but it's still a good boon for her nonetheless. The best bane is defense or res. Both of those stats are already very low and neither one of them affects her in the player phase. Next up is Silas. He's a Lance Cavalry unit and he's the only male unit in this banner, so obviously he's going to get shafted and be the top candidate for demotion. I'm just kidding, but he probably will get demoted. His stats aren't anything too special, especially since his spread follows the same trend as Quan's, who literally just came out not that long ago. It's the typical high attack and defense with low speed and resistance spread that half the Lance Cavalry units have. Even though that's the case, it's not like his stats are terrible. He actually has the 3rd highest attack and the highest defense among Lance Cavalry units. The only issue is that he's extremely slow, so quicker post is pretty much a must-have on him, but only if you don't plan on heavily investing into his speed. Also, if he does get demoted, then he'll be the only 4-star cavalry unit with this type of stat spread. All the other ones are either 5-star locked or free-to-play units. Moving on to his skills are very bland. Slaying Spear isn't a new weapon, but it is the first time that a unit comes out of the box with it. So if he does get demoted, then all you have to do is spend 20,000 feathers to promote and inherit his weapon to one of your units, opposed to having to promote and refine, then inherit a heavy spear. His new C skill is Even Defense Wave. It's the even version of Xander's Defense Wave. I don't think it matters too much on which one to use because a player can simply stall out turns. But if you want to really get deep and technical with it, then this is how I see it. For player controlled, Odd is better on player phase units, while Even is better on enemy phase units. The reason is because turn 2 is usually when enemies are close enough to start baiting them with enemy phase units, but not close enough to start player phasing them. You could start player phasing them on turn 2 on some maps, but it's at the point where your unit has to go really deep in order to do so. Again, that's just my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. As for the rest of his skills, he has Reposition, and a skill is Steady Stance. Silas has a generic stat line made for dueling physical foes in enemy phase, nothing too special, but he does do his job very well. Default set is pretty much an anti-armor set, Steady Stance and Even Defense Wave grants him 12 extra defense, which increases his defense to a monstrous 48 defense. Give him Quick Riposte with Close Defense Steel or Guard with Quick Riposte Steel and he's good to go. He'll become an incredible anti-armor cavalry unit. The only issue I see is his limited build paths. Quick Riposte is almost essential and that really limits his build options. I understand that he could be a speedy unit with a speed super boon, but since his defense is already so high, I would rather increase his defense even more and purposely let him get double for faster special charges. Again, that's just my 2 cents, so take it with a grain of salt. Best boon for him, I will look for plus attack or defense. Speed boon is viable if you are willing to heavily invest into a speed stat. Best bane for him is res, speed, or HP. Dump speed if you follow a similar playstyle as me. Go with a HP bane if you want to turn him into a mixed tank with Berkut's lance. Last hero of the banner is Nina. She's an infantry archer and her stats are almost identical to some Regias's. She's better in every single stat except for defense. It's almost a complete power creep. Anywho, her stats aren't impressive, but they are fair solid stats. She maintains a high 31 res and her speed is the highest among archers. Physical bulk is poor, but that should be expected considering how high her resistance stat is. 32 attack isn't really good enough to start dinking high defense foes in arena, but it's fine against medium to low defense targets. It seems like she's made to be an anti-mage archer according to her stat spread, but her weapon says otherwise. Her new bow is Shiny Bow Plus. It basically grants her 7 more flat damage if the foe's defense is greater than the res by 5. It's kind of wonky that her spread is made for her to duel versus mages who generally have higher res than their defense, but Shiny Bow turns the other way. It is weird, but let's put that aside. 7 flat damage equals 14 extra damage if she doubles. That's actually a lot of damage, and I think it does deal more than a slaying weapon combined with a 3-charge special. If we're comparing these two builds, then yeah, the Shiny Bow build does indeed deal more damage. Shining Bow deals 14 flat damage, then you add the Moonbow special on top of that, which its damage varies depending on the foe's defense stat. For Slaying Bow and Luna to deal the exact same amount of damage as the Shining Bow Moonbow combo, the target's defense has to be 70. Only then they will both output 35 extra damage, but the obvious drawback of Shiny Bow is its inconsistency. New B skill is Speed Res Link. So we have Attack Defense Link, Defense Res Link, and now we have Speed Res Link. Links are great on offensive support units like Erica for example, maybe Lance Lucina. Anna with her newly refined Nawaton has potential as well. There's a good handful of units that can use it really well. Just make sure to give it to anyone who doesn't rely on any B slot skills since the Link skill fills that spot. Link skills does require the unit or allies to use positional skills such as reposition, shove, pivot, drawback, or smite, so keep that in mind as well. The other skills that she has are Moonbow, drawback, and Bow Valor. Nina, while she is somewhat better than half of the archers available, she still doesn't stand out and her stats aren't impressive enough to incentivize summoning on colorless orbs. Besides being a Nina fan, I think the only reason to summon for her is for her skills. Shining Bow isn't necessarily good enough to make the already existing bows like Slaying or Fire Sweep Bow obsolete, but it is a nice unique alternative. Speed Res Link is a premium skill that will probably be locked at 5 stars for a long time, so if you have any itch to get your hands on it, this is your best chance. Bow Valor is also a great skill to go for. It's a nice quality of life skill that fastens the rate in which your bow units receive SP. SP is quite easy to farm nowadays, but making the farming process go by quicker can be important to some players. Best boon is attack then speed. Her speed is already very high and doesn't require a boon if you have some sort of speed buff on your team. Attack is definitely the best boon for her since her base attack is just average. Best bane I would say is HP. I think you can get away with minus defense or minus res, but minus HP is preferred. Alright, so time for my unit ranking and SI ranking. Let's start with the unit ranking first. Best unit of the banner is for sure Ophelia. She's an amazing nuke and definitely one of the best blue mages right now. Second would be Flora. She carries a unique, somewhat niche default kit, but she does her job very well with it. Third and fourth is a toss up between Nina and Silas. I don't think either of them really stand out. For the SI ranking, it obviously depends on what you need, but in terms of who has the best selection of fodder skills in their default kit, number 1 has to go to Ophelia again. I think Rally Up Attack Plus is the most valuable skill in this entire banner. It's useful for all modes, especially Arena. She also has Chill Res. Number 2 is Flora, mainly because of attack res solo. Defense ploy is good, but it's a seal now, so it's not that important as it once was. Third is Nina. Her premium skills are Shiny Bow and Speed Res Link. Those two skills are a bit wonky to use, but they can be fun to use if you have a creative mind. And last but not least, at 4th place is Silas. He has Even Defense Wave. So the question is, should you summon on this banner? All these units are solid, but none of them are game breaking good. If you need any of these skills, of course go for it. Otherwise, I'd recommend passing on this banner. Remember that there is another banner coming up on the 16th, so you should definitely wait until the new banner trailer is released before finalizing your decision. And that's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.